Good morning, fifth graders. I'm Deb Brown, the Social Studies Specialist for the Shawnee Mission School District and your host for the 26th Celebrate American Heroes program. Today, as part of our program, we have two very special guests. We will be asking students both in our audience and back in the classrooms to submit questions, and we hope to incorporate your questions and their answers into this morning's program. For those of you that are joining us through our district website or our cable affiliate, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you to all of you who are in our audience this morning at Apache Elementary School. I hope we have a wonderful program for you this morning. I'd also like to welcome members of the Superintendent's Cabinet, principals from every elementary school in our district who are here this morning, and Board of Education members Sarah Goodburn and Deb Zila. At this time, it is my pleasure to begin the program with the presentation of our nation's colors under the direction of Commander Sheldon Vasquez and the cadets of the Shawnee Mission West and JROTC. This will be followed by the Star Spangled Banner and the Pledge of Allegiance. Those of you who can, please rise. Join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. This morning, it's my privilege to introduce Deputy Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kenny Southwick.
Good morning to all of you and all of the students out there and teachers that we can't see. I just think this is about the coolest thing. Deb said that this is our 26th year. This is my first year in Shawnee Mission, but to be a part of this is extremely special. 39 years ago, I was a social studies teacher teaching ninth graders about American heroes in my American history class. So to be able to be a part of this today is extremely important. What's really cool, though, is that in life, we make changes, and today, rather than the pomp and circumstance of 2,000 students coming together in an auditorium, we have a great opportunity to share this program digitally to all of our fifth graders out of one location. And again, I just think that's really cool for us to be able to do that. Over the past several weeks, you've been learning and researching about heroes in this country. But not only the heroes of the past, but our contemporary heroes of today. Each generation of Americans need heroes. I will tell you that my heroes were my teachers and my principals and my coaches. And had it not been for them, I would not be here today. So I want to personally thank not only the principals and teachers that are here, but also all across the district that are involved in heroism every day to make the difference in children's lives. And we can't ever take that too lightly. Students, through your research, you've learned that a hero is someone who is selfless and brave, someone by his or her actions makes a difference, not only in the community in a small way, but also across the globe. You've discovered that heroes are often ordinary people, everyday people that make extraordinary contributions to society. I will tell you that happens every single day. But today we have a special treat. You'll have a chance to visit with two special heroes from the pages of our American history. Before we bring out our special guest, though, I want to recognize the hard work that you've been doing in your classrooms and researching about heroes. I have a very special person to the left of me. I've had a chance to visit with her. She has an awesome essay to read. I'd like to introduce Olivia Zender. Olivia, if you'll come forward. Olivia is a student at Prairie Elementary School. She selected Ruby Bridges as her hero. And we've invited Olivia to share her essay this morning and showcase the outstanding work not only that Olivia is doing, but the work that you students across the district are doing. Again, thank you for all of the opportunities, teachers and principals in the Shawnee Mission School District of what they've shared for our students. And Olivia is going to be a great example of that.
One little girl, a big mob of protesters. Can you imagine walking into school every day and being threatened? Ruby Bridges had to deal with this. My definition of a hero is someone who is noble and brave and never gives up, even if it is life-threatening. Don't follow the path. Go where there's no path and start a trail. This is not only what Ruby Bridges said, but it's also what Ruby Bridges did. She lived during a time of segregation and helped get African Americans their rights. I think Ruby Bridges is confident, brave, and inspiring. She is a hero to me because I think about how horrible it would be if segregation was still around. Ruby Bridges helped to end segregation, and that is why she is my hero. Ruby Bridges was born in 1954 in Tylertown, Mississippi. Her family moved to New Orleans when she was 4, looking for a better life. Her parents had to work very hard to support the family. Ruby went to an all-black school for kindergarten. She walked a couple miles every day to get to school. Luckily, she had a lot of friends to walk with her. However, the courts decided to put an end to segregation because separate but equal turned out not to be equal at all. Ruby was confident. When Ruby began to go to the white school, she was not the only one that suffered. Her dad lost his job, and they weren't allowed to shop at their local grocery store. Ruby's grandparents were sent off the land they had sharecropped for 25 years. However, their family was strong through this. Also, Ruby asked a white child to be her friend. He said no because his mother forbid him to be friends with her. After that, Ruby began to understand that it wasn't her fault. The boy was just obeying his mother. Ruby's teacher and parents taught her a great lesson. They taught her not to judge people by the color of their skin, and that God makes us unique in ways that go much deeper. Ruby Bridges is brave. On the second day of school, a lady came up to her and told her she was going to poison her. But Ruby kept on walking like a little soldier, as one of her federal marshals remarked. Another lady held a coffin with a black doll inside to scare Ruby. Her mom taught her to pray on the way to school. The prayer was her protection from the things that people yelled at her. Ruby never cried or whimpered. Her mother was a big influence on her. Her mother kept telling her to be strong, so she was strong. Ruby is inspiring. Ruby was not welcome at her new school. Actually, she was scared. People yelled horrible things and threw things at her. Federal marshals had to walk her into school, and she couldn't have class on the first day because of the chaos. When Ruby did get to go to class, she didn't have any classmates. Everybody pulled out their children. Ruby couldn't have gotten through without her teacher, Miss Henry. There was still chaos sometimes, so she could not go outside for recess. Instead, they pushed aside desks and did jumping jacks or played games. At one point, Ruby started to show signs of stress. She started hiding her lunch in file cabinets until the janitor found them because people in the crowd threatened to poison her. Then her teacher began eating lunch with her. Ruby also started having nightmares. She would wake her mother for comfort, and her mother would tell her to say her prayers. Another thing Ruby did is pray for the people that yelled and threw things and threatened her. That is one of the things that inspires me most because she was so forgiving. Ruby Bridges is well known and respected because she helped put an end to segregation and get African Americans their rights. Just imagine if Ruby had decided not to go to William Franz. There could still be segregation today. I have learned that if you face your fears, you can make the world a better place.
Wasn't Olivia awesome? It was great. Olivia, we have a certificate of achievement. Olivia Zender, district essay reader, 2015 Celebrate American Heroes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Another hand for Olivia. So as we've spoken, the district has launched a digital initiative all across the district. Our students are involved in a greater level of technology in the Shawnee Mission School District than ever before. Today, we're going to see an opportunity to see some of the productions that teachers have worked with our students across the district. And we want to take an example to look at a digital showcase of Crystal Williamson's class at Trailwood Elementary School.
Good morning, New Orleans. I am Anna Kreamer from TWTP News. Our story today is about a young lady named Ruby Bridges. Yesterday, our cameraman caught her being led into William Franz Public School by 4 U.S. This wonderful little girl was very brave, but only heard things like Negroes aren't allowed. I salute to you, Ruby. We have also located a contract up in Boston, Massachusetts about some other African American students going to white segregated schools. Hopefully America is turning around so that children can be friends with whoever they want. Type in Ruby Bridges and find more info on her at biography.com. Also check out the children's book, The Story of Ruby Bridges by Robert Coles. Thank you, and this is Anna Kreamer signing off now from TWTP News.
We had several other projects submitted as well, and we're going to try to put those on our Digital Learning Initiative page so that everyone can access those later. You know, at a time when airplanes first took to the air, one woman became a pioneer of flight. Most people believe that she was lost while flying across the Pacific, but she's here with us today at Apache, so Amelia Earhart, come on out.
I have been asked to talk to you about why I am a hero. I don't really think of myself as a hero. I think of myself as someone who is very fortunate to be able to do the things that she likes to do. Now, I believe that everyone should be able to do so. And so I want to always encourage people to find what it is that they like to do and to pursue that. Now, for me, growing up in Kansas, it was not such a stretch. My grandparents lived on the Missouri River in Atchison, and that's where I spent my school days. From a second story of the house where we lived, where my bedroom window was, we could look out and see right over to the Missouri River and beyond. And even though I hadn't seen an airplane at that time, by the time the World War started, I was volunteering as an aide in a military hospital, and the pilots had the best stories of all. And I asked so many questions that I got to go out to an airfield and see this little red plane flying loops and spins. And when the pilot saw that there were some women down there, well, he proceeded to buzz us. Everyone else jumped back. But I just stood there. That plane, it spoke to me when it flew past. It was so close that the propellers drove the snow against my face, and it felt like ice, but it was just invigorating. I wanted to be in that plane. I wanted to be that pilot. I wanted it so badly. But this was during a war, and fuel was much too dear to be wasted on civilians. I had to wait until after the war. And, my first time in an airplane, up there, just a few clouds and the setting sun, and everything down below, everything tall, flattened out, and it all got soft. Even the problems I had on the ground disappeared once I was up in the air. And I knew. I told my family, I said, I think I want to learn to fly. Now, it was going to cost an immense amount of money, but I got my first wage-paying job and a second job, and sometimes I had 3 jobs, and for a time I had 4 jobs. But I had such a good time. I'm convinced that the reason that pilots fly is for the beauty of it. Now, they might not tell you that because they might not know it up here, but in their hearts, that's why they fly. Some people said that I was a hero because of that first flight across the Atlantic, my being the first woman to fly across the Atlantic, but I was just a passenger on that flight. Just a passenger. So you can imagine my surprise when we arrived. Well, I should tell you, there was a pilot and a co-pilot, both of them men. I spent the whole time sitting in the back of the aeroplane. I was under contract to write a book, so I was taking notes and keeping the log, that manner of thing. But when we arrived in Wales, there was a crowd of people there, and they were all cheering me. Amelia Earhart, Amelia! Someone snatched the scarf from around my neck to keep as a souvenir. I'm not famous, but they were cheering me. And I kept saying, but the boys, they're the ones who flew the plane. But no one was cheering Wilmer Stoltz, Slim Gordon. It was all about Amelia. And I was really embarrassed, I was. And I told them, I am a pilot, I have a license, I thought I would get to fly the plane. And they kept saying that they were proud of me. And finally, what I heard was that they were proud of me because they thought that by being a passenger on a very risky flight, I had done as much as a woman could do. Now, I knew that was nonsense because Charles Lindbergh had flown that same ocean the year before, in 1927. He had flown that ocean by himself, and I knew that a plane does not care who you are so long as you can fly it. And what can you do when everyone's proud, but you know that you can do more? Well, what I did, I went to the parties, I rode in the parades, but I promised myself that one day I would fly across that ocean by myself. And 4 years later, I did it. I had a beautiful Lockheed Vega, red plane, gold stripes, single-engine plane, and I had some difficulties along the way, and I had to at one point make a decision whether I would keep flying or turn around and go back. But when I thought about going back, I thought about all of those people who said that a woman shouldn't even try to do it. And I thought, my engine is made out of the heaviest metal of any engine, and I kept flying, and I made it across that Atlantic Ocean. And this time, there were no people to greet me because I landed in Ireland and I was supposed to land in France. But nonetheless, I felt that I had finally done something worth cheering about. Now, if the cows cheered, I'm not going to tell you about it, but that's where I landed, in a field, in a pasture. So I'm very fortunate because not only do I get to fly, but I get to talk about flying and write about flying. And I'm very glad to be here today. And I understand that there might be some questions for me, so I'm very eager to have those. Yes?
In fact, we have our first question is going to come from a student right here at Apache Elementary School.
Hello.
I'm Hallie, and why did you want to be the first woman to fly across the ocean?
Why did I want to be the first woman to fly across the ocean? Well, there's nothing that a pilot likes better than to fly. And that kind of distance, it was so exciting. Yes, the adventure of it, the fun of it. And that's it, really. Yes. And then the second time was to prove that a woman could do it. Yes. There's another question? Yes, great.
My name is Sagan Trusty, and I'm from Blue Jacket Flint. My question is, who was your inspiration when you were younger, and why?
Who was my inspiration when I was younger, and why? Well, I had several inspirations. I was very fortunate because even though I spent the school year with my grandparents, and so I had a grandmother. I mean, she was a proper Victorian lady, and she was always telling me what a girl did and what a boy did. But my parents believed that their daughters should be able to do anything that a boy could do. And they said that if grandmother did not let us play football and ride sleds, then we would go back from no longer live in Atchison with our grandparents during the school year, but we would be in Kansas City. So grandmother wanted to keep us, so she let us do those things. So between mother and grandmother and father and, I had a good many cousins to play with. So really those two things at balancing, I think. When I am entertained by royalty, after one of these flights, I have no difficulties with that because my grandparents helped me feel that I'm just as good as anybody else.
Hi, my name is Marissa Wilson, and I'm from Apache. My question is, how old were you when you started to fly a plane?
How old was I when I started to fly a plane? Well, now that's one of those grandmother things. My grandmother is of an age where a woman does not talk about how old she is, but I think that's starting to change, and I will say I was in my mid-20s, all right? My early mid-20s.
Okay, we actually have some viewers that have written in some questions for you. So I'm going to combine a couple, one from Aaron at McCullough and one from Malachi at Neiman. And they've asked these questions. What accomplishment are you most proud of? And did people help and support you when you were going to fly? And you've talked a little bit about that, but if you could reiterate that importance of support.
All right. What am I most proud of? That solo flight across the Atlantic. Now, I've made some interesting flights since, from Hawaii to the mainland, that sort of thing, from California to Mexico to New Jersey, and flying an autogyro, with the propeller on the top as well as one in the front, flying an autogyro from coast to coast and back again. But that solo flight across the Atlantic stands out. And then, of course, this upcoming flight around the world at the equator. I feel I have one more record-setting flight left in me, and I'm looking forward to that one. So what kind of support did I get as I was learning to fly? Well, for one thing, my mother my father loaned me the $5 so I could go up for my first flight, and my mother and my sister gave me the money to help me buy my first aeroplane, so that was important. I wanted my first teacher to be a woman because I wasn't sure that the men would take me seriously. And so Anita Snook, we called her Snooky. Anita Snook was my first instructor, and of course she was very important in that. Did that answer the question? All right.
I'm Kale from Mill Creek Elementary School. Do you have a nickname?
I do. My family has taken the last part of my name, and sometimes they call me Mealy. Yes. And my husband calls me AE, and I call him by his initials, so he's GP. I guess different nicknames with different people. Other questions?
My name is Andrew Alka, and I'm from Belinder Elementary. Where did you learn how to fly?
There you are. Hi. I learned to fly outside of Los Angeles, so in California. My family had always lived in the Midwest, but my father, after the war, decided that he wanted to start life over again and that Southern California might be a good place to do that. And so at that time, I had been in college, but of course I'd been up in Toronto doing the war volunteerism. And I went to California, as did my sister. So that's why we were there. And of course, a lot of the pilots who made it back after the war, they wanted to go to California because they could fly any day, just almost every day. Yeah.
All right, it's hard to believe that time goes so quickly. Can you all help me thank Ms. Earhart for her willingness to answer the questions?
Thank you very much.
And I understand we will see a little more of her later, but right now we'd like to send it over to Joe Potter and our wonderful Hero Honor Choir.
Well, all of the music teachers in elementary school in Shawnee Mission have been teaching their fifth graders patriotic songs the last few weeks. So I'd like to invite all of the roughly 2,000 fifth graders throughout the district that are watching this program in their classrooms to sing along with us these patriotic songs. And I'd like to invite every fifth grader that's in the room to stand up as we sing together with the fifth grade choir representing every school in the district. So let's stand up, choir. Our first song will be Grand Old Flag, and let's fill up this gym with our sound.
Of my Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July.
Go ahead and be seated. Thank you. The 16th President of the United States hardly needs an introduction at all, and I'm pretty sure we would all recognize him if we saw him on the streets. Most historians and scholars rank this president as one of the top 3 in our nation's history, so it is my privilege to introduce to you right now Abraham Lincoln.
Good morning. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who fought here have already consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or detract. This world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it cannot forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be here dedicated to the cause which those who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, and that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from this earth. My name is Abraham Lincoln. I have been told that there are a great many people who consider me to be a hero. I don't know if I agree with that assessment, although I am honored by that distinction. I do know that throughout the course of my life, I have made every attempt to do what I believed was right in my heart and to treat my fellow man and fellow woman the same way that I wish to be treated. The golden rule. When I was a young man living in New Salem, Illinois, there was a group of men, a gang, I believe you call them today, called the Clary's Grove Boys. Now, these were bullies. These were men who delighted in scaring and terrorizing the residents of the village of New Salem. I decided to take them on with logic and communication. I sought out the leader of this gang, a man named Jack Armstrong. And I, having been somewhat of a adequate wrestler in my youth, challenged him to the best 2 out of 3 falls, not knowing the outcome. I believe the Lord was on my side that day because I bested Jack 2 out of 3 falls. Mr. Armstrong shortly thereafter became my friend. I won him over to my side of the argument, and the Clary's Grove Boys from that point on vowed to treat the others in the village the same way that they wished to be treated. As a young man, I had also made a visit down to New Orleans to the marketplace. I had taken some barrels of corn and wheat and other crops that my family was able to grow on our farm in Indiana and Illinois. And after I'd sold the crops in the marketplace, I saw something that day I'd never seen before in my life. and I never wanted to see again. I witnessed a slave auction. What I saw that day so sickened me that I made a vow that if ever I was in a position to do something about it, I wanted to help get rid of slavery. When I was fortunate enough to be elected by the fine people of this country as their president, I did what I could to keep the country together, but never forgetting my vow. On January 1st, 1863, I had signed into law a document I had written some months earlier called the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, that edict was a compromise that I was never happy with. The happiest day would come 2 years later when Congress would change the laws of this land in January of 1865 under the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. If I have a single greatest accomplishment in my meager life, it would be the passage of that amendment, putting those people henceforth and forevermore free. If I have any advice to give to any of you, young and young at heart alike, it would be follow your dreams. No matter how many times you find yourself trodden down by life, if you are doing something that you believe in with all your heart and all your soul, do not give up. I am proud to tell you that I lost more elections in my life than I ever won. But I did not give up. I did not let the discouragement of those losses deter me from my determination to find a place in this country where I could do some right as I saw that right. Do not give up on your dreams. Pursue them to the furthest reaches of your ambition, and you will go far in this life. I thank you for your time.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a question that I think you may have already demonstrated an answer for, but Hunter at McAuliffe Elementary School asked if you really kept papers in your hat.
Well, I will often taunt students if they ask that question, where they had heard that. But the truth is, before I became a politician and a lawyer, I was a mailman for a time in New Salem, Illinois. And oftentimes, after delivering the mail in the tiny village where we lived, I would then have to deliver mail to farms that were miles outside of town. Now, being on horseback, it was cumbersome to keep a briefcase or a satchel with me. So what I would do is I would take those letters and I would tuck them up inside my hat. Now, after a while, I realized that that was a fairly safe and secure place to leave them. I was most likely to remember where I'd placed my hat than I was to remember where I'd placed my satchel when I became a lawyer and a politician. So yes, that's where that habit started.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Dodson, and my question to you is, why did you have humor for those young kids?
Well, humor to me is one of the great things that gets us through life, particularly through tragedies. I cannot remember a time from my earliest memories as a young boy where I did not rely on humor and sometimes practical jokes to get myself through a day or through turmoil. Many of you may be familiar with this, but when my father was fortunate enough to build a new cabin for us, he was able to put in a proper wooden floor. Now, this may sound like not much of an accomplishment for those of you, but if you lived in a cabin with a dirt floor, which is where I was born, a wood floor was a remarkable thing. My mother loved that wood floor. She did not want anyone tracking mud or dirt or anything else inside. One day when she went to run some errands in town, myself and some friends were down by the river. We were laughing and rolling and playing in the mud. And she admonished me not to track mud across her nice clean floor. I said, "All right, Mother, I won't." When she left, I went around to the side of the cabin. I got myself real clean. Cleaned all the mud off my slacks, even took my shoes off. But because I was so tall, even at a young age, I picked up one of my friends high in the air. I carried him inside that cabin. He was covered with mud from head to toe. When my mother got home that afternoon and saw that floor of hers, it was as clean as it could be. But there were muddy footprints all over the ceiling. So yes, Lloyd, humor is a wonderful way to get yourself through life. Thank you for that question.
My name is Sarah E., and I was wondering if you were into politics when you were a child.
You know, I came to politics quite by accident, and I was not into politics as a child. What I was into was a fascination with the law. Now, my fascination with the law came from the fact that my father had been hauled into court while we were living in Kentucky 3 separate times to defend his right to own property he had bought and paid for, and each time, mostly based on his ignorance of the laws of Kentucky, we lost part or all of the land we'd been living on. Politics I stumbled upon by accident. Whether they were right or wrong, the residents of New Salem found me to be a fairly accomplished speaker, and they decided in 1834 to encourage me to run for the state legislature. And I won. But as I said, I lost more elections on my journey that would eventually lead me to the White House. Politics came after law, but I was fascinated by both. Thank you.
My name is Ella Smith, and I'm from Prairie, and I'm wondering how tall you are.
Young lady, I am 6 feet 4 inches tall. I have been told that I have at least 1 inch on Thomas Jefferson, and that to date I am the tallest person ever fortunate enough to serve as President of these United States.
We have a follow-up from one of her colleagues, also at Prairie, who wrote in asking to have you tell us why you wanted or decided to become or run for president.
Well, like many events in my life, it was a series of fortunate events, unlike Lemony Snicket books that all of you are familiar with. I had made an unsuccessful run against Stephen Douglas for senator from Illinois. We conducted a series of debates throughout the state that gained some note on the East Coast. And in early 1860, I had been invited by members of a group in New York City to speak at a place that would be known as Cooper Union. That speech caught the attention of the founding members of a party from 1854 that came to be known as the Republican Party. And at their convention in Chicago that summer, mine was among several names that were put into consideration for President of the United States. It was not a foregone conclusion, by the way. There were several ballots cast throughout a long evening. Eventually, from my home in Springfield, Illinois, I had been informed that I had been chosen. I did not know whether to celebrate or mourn that auspicious occasion. Thank you for your question.
We have time for one last question.
Hi, my name is Piper Borgman. I'm from Rising Star. And what was your hardest struggle in your first year of being president?
The hardest struggle would have been the loss at the very first skirmish at Manassas, also known as Bull Run. It had been thought that with the Union Army so far outnumbering the Confederates, that the war, such as it was called, would be very short. And after that initial victory, we would be able to break their ranks and they would submit to rejoin this great country of ours. But we lost that skirmish. We lost several others after that. I waited almost 2 years for a Union victory that was decisive enough that would allow me to put forth the Emancipation Proclamation. But the loss of that battle and the horrible losses of all the soldiers on both sides of the Confederate question and the Union question took a great toll on my time in the White House. Thank you for that.
All right, can you help me thank President Lincoln?
I now have the distinct honor of introducing a roll call. As many of you know, students from each of the schools selected a single student to portray a hero for this year's Hero Roll Call. I hope that you enjoy this presentation as they tell you about their particular hero. So, without any further ado, let the Hero Roll Call begin.
Hi, I'm Amelia Earhart. I'm considered an American hero because I never gave up and I always followed my dreams, like when I rose up to 14,000 feet. If I were still here today, I would say, flying may not be plain, but the fun of it is worth the price.
My name is Ben Franklin. I am an American hero because I invented many important things for the world. I was very brave when I was conducting my lightning experiment. I have often said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail.
I was the first woman doctor. Do you know who I am? Elizabeth Blackwell, at your service. I still inspire many, many people's lives. I am an American hero because I was the first woman to prove that women can be doctors too. I rescued many children's and people's lives.
We once had to live in a world where African Americans were forced into slavery. My name is Harriet Beatrice Dill. I was born in Litchfield, Connecticut on June 14, 1811. I wrote a story about the cruelty of slavery called Uncle Tom's Cabin. I once said the past, the present, and future are really one. They are today.
Hello, my name is Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. I am remembered as an American hero because I was an influential congressman and I bravely fought in the Battle of the Alamo. Always remember my motto, be sure you're right, then go ahead.
My name is Jackie Robinson. I am an American hero because I was the first African American baseball player and I helped break racial barriers in baseball. I won the first Rookie of the Year award in 1947 and was voted MVP in 1949.
I am trapped in a dark, silent world, but I still did it. I made a difference. I am Helen Keller. I was born on June 27th, 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama. 19 months after birth, I caught a sickness which made me blind and deaf. In 1887, when I was 7 years old, Annie Sullivan came to Alabama to be my teacher. With the help of Annie, I learned to spell, read, and communicate. I even graduated high school and college. On June 1st, 1968, I took my last breath in my sleep.
Hello, I'm Rosa Parks. I was born on February 4th, 1913. I started the Montgomery bus boycott and ended bus segregation. I was awarded the Congressional Medal of Freedom. These are just a few reasons why I, Rosa Parks, am an American hero.
My name is General George S. Patton, Allied Commander of the 3rd United States Army. Some have called me a hero. In my time, these things have helped me to get through. Courage, trust, and determination. Courage to face the enemy. Trust to inspire the men that you lead. Determination to get the job done. And may God bless America.
My name is Susan B. Anthony. I am an American hero because I fought for women's rights. The 19th Amendment was named after me. It gave women the right to vote. And that's why I'm an American hero.
Hi, my name is Neal Armstrong. I was born in 1930. I am considered a hero because I was the first man on the moon and I served in the Korean War as a pilot. I then lived a long life that ended at 82 years old in 2012.
Hello, my name is Harriet Tubman. I was born into slavery. My biggest fear as a young child was being torn from my family and sold to a plantation farmer. In 1849, I escaped slavery and moved to Pennsylvania. There I began working with the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad is a super secret network of people who have slaves escaped to freedom. I've worked there for many years, and into my olden age, I never ever refused to help anyone who came to my door. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.
I am Diane Fossey. I saved the mountain gorillas by dying for them in Rwanda, Africa, because I stood up to poachers. Poachers wanted gorillas for their hands to make ashtrays. I loved animals my whole life. Poachers murdered me because of my attempts to save the mountain gorillas. The gorillas are now thriving and growing in population.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Roosevelt, and I'm an American hero for my numerous Nobel Peace Prize nominations for my efforts to further understanding between people of different races and religions internationally. I am typically remembered as one of the greatest First Ladies ever and one of the most esteemed women of all time.
The most effective way to do it is to do it. I was born on July 24th, 1897. I am a hero because I am brave, I am a pioneer, and I stood up for women's rights. I am brave because I was the first woman to ride solo in an airplane across the Atlantic. I am a pioneer because I did something no other girl has done. And I stood up for women's rights because I believe girls can do whatever boys can do. When my plane and I disappeared, I was declared to be dead January 5th, 1939. I am Amelia Earhart. I symbolize fascination.
Hi, I'm Neal deGrasse Tyson, and I'm a hero because I am persevering, caring, and interested. I am persevering because I have been told by so many people not to become an astrophysicist because I am African American. But today, I am an astrophysicist, and I graduated from Cornell University. I am caring because I wish kids could have a better STEM education. I know the problem isn't kids, it's scientifically illiterate adults. And I am interested because I went to the Hayden Planetarium when I was 9 years old, and today I am the director of that planetarium. That's why I'm a hero.
My name is Walt Disney. I'm considered an American hero because I've inspired millions of people to follow their dreams, explore their imagination, and never give up. I believe laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever.
Hello, my name is Kristen McAuliffe. I was born on September 2, 1948 in Boston, Massachusetts. 3 traits that made me hero are smart, kind, and brave. I am best known for being a first teacher in space. Something interesting about me that I died when I ride the space shuttle, which is we call it Challenger disaster. I've been quoted as saying, reach for it, push yourself as far as you can.
My name is Benjamin Franklin. I am considered an American hero because I was one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. I was a statesman, an inventor, a scientist, and a writer. I made many scientific discoveries about lightning and invented the lightning rod. I am also remembered for writing Poor Richard's Almanac, a book of sayings that help people live a better life.
Hello, I'm Phyllis Wheatley, America's first African-American poet. I was bought as a slave to help take care of Mrs. Wheatley, and she taught me how to read and write. I discovered I had a passion for learning. My poetry gave me a voice to express my thoughts on freedom and let me prove that slaves could be intelligent. I was freed from the Wheatleys but still helped to take care of them. I had lots of hardships, but I never stopped writing.
I'm George Scaler, a biologist. I'm an American hero because I spent my life in wildlife conservation. I studied in Africa, Asia, and South America. I lived with mountain gorillas in Africa and pandas in China. I helped make over 20 wildlife reserves worldwide.
Hello, my name is Sybil Ludington, and I'm an American hero. I'm an American hero because of my daring midnight ride to gather men from the countryside to fight the British on April 26, 1777. This ride has also made me known as the female Paul Revere.
My name is Jackie Robinson. I was the first African American player to play in the MLB with the Whites. I ended a lot of discrimination and finally ended the color barrier.
I am Susan B. Anthony, an American pioneer of women's rights. I helped found the National Women Equal Rights Association and the National Women's Suffrage Association. In 1919, the 19th Amendment was passed, giving women the right to vote. I am Susan B. Anthony. Hi there, I'm Rosie Napravnik, and I love horse racing. I won the Louisiana Derby twice, and then I won the Kentucky Oaks twice. I was also the only girl to ride in all 3 Triple Crown races. I was scared at first, but then I realized that these races were a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I decided to be brave and go for it. It was hard because the other jockeys were men. They got so much support. I, on the other hand, was told to use my initials so people wouldn't know I was a girl. But the biggest reason I'm proud of myself is because I inspired girls that just because they aren't boys, they can do just as much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and a pleasure to be here. I am Edith Green. I was born in Oregon on January 17th, 1910. As I grew, I became outraged to experience the unequal opportunities given to boys. In 1954, I was elected to the House of Representatives. Despite a mostly male Congress, I quickly became known as a bare-knuckle fighter who could whiplash opponents with just her words. I later crafted a bill that became Title IX. Title IX equalizes school funding and scholarships for boys and girls sports. Although I did not get credit, I knew it had given millions of women the chance to go to college. I was also a strong supporter of the Equal Pay Act and the Education Amendments of 1972. Sadly, I died in 1987. I was 77, but my legacy and Title IX still live on today. And that's why I, Edith Green, am an American hero.
Hello, my name is Neil Armstrong, and I'm an American hero because I was the first American man to walk on the moon. One of my most famous quotes was, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
I am Amelia Earhart. I am an American hero. I was brave, kind, and courageous. I was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean solo. I am Amelia Earhart, and I am an American hero.
Hello, my name is Sonia Sotomayor. I am the first Hispanic female Supreme Court Justice. I help people solve their cases and take my job seriously. I have solved more than 3,000 cases and written more than 380 opinions. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a judge, so I worked hard and I made it happen. And if you work hard, you can become whatever you want to be.
Hi, my name is Louis Zamparini, and I was born on January 26, 1917 in Leigh, New York. I am a hero because I stood up to my tormentors as a prisoner of war and served my country in World War II. I am most well known for coming in 8th in the 1936 Berlin Olympics and surviving 4 years as a prisoner of war. I am brave, perseverant, and loyal.
Hi, my name is Rosalind Savage, but you can call me Roz. Have you ever rowed across an ocean? I have, 3 times actually. I'm the first woman to row across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Can you imagine rowing for 103 days straight without any communication? It's hard and scary. I'm brave, pioneering, and persevering. When I was rowing across the Atlantic Ocean, all 4 of my oars broke before I even got halfway across. Lots of people, I'm saying lots of people to be polite, it's more like everybody, said I couldn't do it because I was a woman and was considered too small to row across an ocean. I didn't let what other people say stop me, and I'm glad I didn't. That's why I'm a hero. Remember, never give up on your dreams.
You kids these days, you have no idea what it's like to be segregated and pushed around for no good reason. One of my goals was to achieve civil rights and freedom. I, Rosa Parks, worked alongside history's greatest civil rights activists to make the future world a better place for everyone. Me standing up for myself and all black people on that Montgomery bus was the little famous act that helped the civil rights movement move forward.
My name is Wendell Smith, an unsung hero, and I was born on March 23, 1914. I was a famous African-American sports writer. Many think my greatest achievement was how hard I tried to get African-Americans to play in Major League Baseball teams. But yet, I had to bounce my typewriter on my lap because I wasn't allowed in the white press box. I was Sportscaster of the Year in 1969, and I was entered into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1994 in the Sports Writers Wing.
I'd like to give one more round of applause to not just our student heroes, but to the amazing TV crew that put that together. So please join me. Before the Hero Choir leads us in our last song, I want to thank everyone who is here this morning with us and those of you who have been joining in from your classrooms and across the district. I'd like to thank those of you, the students here that came dressed in red, white, and blue, as well as in your hero costumes, so well done. I also want to thank Mrs. Williams and Mr. Potter for leading our Hero Choir once again this year. Choir, you have done a wonderful job this morning, and thank you so much for being here. I would also like, yes. I would also like to take this moment to applaud Mr. Joe Potter. Mr. Potter is retiring at the end of this school year and has directed our Hero Choir for over 20 years. Mr. Potter, we hope that as you take that next chapter of your life and you move forward, that you have the opportunity to visit all 50 of those nifty states and travel from sea to shining sea. So thank you for being part of our American Heroes and Shawnee Mission history. So at this time, Mr. Potter will lead us one more time in the song, America the Beautiful. May be seated. And to conclude our program, I'd like an encore of our student heroes led by Amelia Earhart, and let the hero parade begin. Once again, thank you all for joining us for the 26th Celebrate American Heroes program. At this time, it is my pleasure to say so long to our classroom audiences. This concludes our program.